Hello and welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl. Wealth is the ability to fully experience life by Henry David Thoreau. I'd like to start with something funny. An 8-year-old girl asks her father, "Daddy, what is sex?" The father is somewhat surprised that she would ask that question, but he reckons if she's old enough to ask the question, she's surely old enough to get a straight answer. So the father proceeds to tell her young daughter about the birds and the bees. After the brief explanation, the little girl appears a little pale, wide-eyed in disbelief. "By the way, dear, why did you ask?" said the father. The little girl replies, "Mommy told me to tell you that dinner would be ready in just a couple of secs." Okay, I would like to remind us of the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Be impeccable with your words. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip against others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others do and say is a projection of their own dream or illusion. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstanding, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. Always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Our special guest this evening is Michael Eisenmenger. This is the first segment of a 2-part discussion with Michael. Michael Eisenmenger. Michael is an educator, print and web designer, and media producer. He did community outreach and education at the Manhattan Neighborhood Network. In 1999, he co-founded the May 1st Technology Collective, formerly called Media Jumpstart, where he was on staff until 2003. He is a member of the Paper Tiger Television Collective, a board member of Vidya Zamit, an international coalition for democratic communication, and was one of the founding members of the New York Media Alliance and the Autonomous Media Project. He has also worked in the projects of independent media centers and coordinated the project's television satellite casts from Seattle, Washington, and Mexico City. Michael also co-founded Media Jumpstart, a nonprofit organization providing database, web, and technical assistance to the New York City progressive nonprofit community. Michael later helped launch and directed the daily news program Grit TV with Laura Flanders in 2008. Michael is currently the executive director of the Community Media Center of Marin. If it weren't for CMCM, Community Media Center of Marin, this show wouldn't be airing. Anyway, welcome, Michael. This is an honor to have you on our show, especially since you are the director of Marin TV. And if it weren't for Marin TV, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing and where I'm going and where I'm headed. So I just appreciate you being here. And I've explained some of your background, but very modestly. So if you could share, I know you're from New York, and if you could kind of tell how you got into media and what your passion is about that.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Cheryl.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not really from New York.
Kentucky.
I'm
sorry.
I'm a Kentucky boy. I grew up in Louisville, as we like to say.
Yeah.
And went to New York in my early 20s to do my graduate work. I was studying art. That's why everyone goes to New York.
So what school did you go to in New York?
Actually in New Jersey, Rutgers.
Oh, okay.
Rutgers University. And then I later was a professor there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And, in the context of studying art, when I was an undergraduate, I studied political science, philosophy, art. you never know where to go when you're young, and at that
Yeah.
time, you remember it was so inexpensive to go to college.
Yeah, right. Virtually,
You
didn't
could
have
go
to pay.
forever.
Yeah.
You know, you could have a part-time job as a young person and go
Yeah.
to college.
Yeah. It must have been a big step from Kentucky to New York.
It was. I mean, it was. Yeah, that was transformative. I mean, that's
Had
a
you
huge...
gone there before you went to
Only,
college?
well, only once. I went up to visit the school because I needed a job, and it almost scared me away. I mean, it was pretty. This was the early '80s. New York was kind of, you know, coming out of its dark days of the '70s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But parts of it were still smoldering. You know, so
And that's what attracted you?
it was exciting. I mean, it's not the same city now. Then it was, you know, it was a great place for artists.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But yeah, I chose a program partly because it was known for political art. You know,
Oh, okay.
Leon Golub taught painting there, and Martha Rosler taught media. She's a very well-known media theorist and critic.
Uh-huh.
And that was good. It was very informative. And just as my work evolved, I became more interested in community efforts. A lot of art at that time was collaborative, you know, done in cooperatives and based in communities. So you like Tim Rollins and KOS working with kids in the Bronx doing, you know, constructive graffiti, and there were just dozens and dozens of Guerrilla Girls, just all these projects that were, you know, collectives of people. And it sort of led me to Paper Tiger TV, which was
What is
a
the
video
Paper
collective.
Tiger TV?
It's a video collective that was started in 1981. They are known primarily for doing media analysis and criticism. So, and it was really a low-budget public access show.
Oh, okay.
And at that time in New York, there was no public access facility like we have here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the collective would rent a studio on 23rd Street, which was pretty notorious because these studios, half of them were brothels, half were television studios. It was
That's interesting.
a little crazy.
Were they knocking on your door?
No, but we'd rent the studio for an hour in order to produce a half-hour show.
Yeah.
And they were pretty elaborate sets, backgrounds, and all sorts of activities and things going on.
So when they would do their critical part, was it of art or what?
Usually of the media.
Oh,
So,
oh,
you know, it
okay.
might be Michael Harrington reading the, you know, Constitution.
Oh, interesting.
You know, the first shows were Herb Schiller doing a deconstruction of the New York Times. It was a
Oh.
four-part series.
So it's quite controversial, actually.
You know, political, but it was really looking at, you know, at media consumption in the United States and the political economy of media. You know, how magazines and newspapers and television and radio was, you know, how that's constructed and how that shapes public opinion.
Oh, interesting.
And who owns it, you know, the cross ownership.
Oh, yes.
Which is still a big issue. I mean, nothing's really changed in the last 20 years. The concentration has gotten less and less.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So are you saying, in my interpretation, my understanding, are you saying that the money still kind of manipulates?
Well, there's very few owners of of big medias, of the distributors, you know. I mean, we have Comcast is buying Time Warner. They already bought NBC Universal, so not only do they own the cables coming into your house, they also own the content providers. And they also are, if this merger goes through, they'll own 1/3 of the country's internet access.
So does that mean that they have control of the content?
It means they have an enormous amount of control over what we see and hear and what we know about the world around us.
Ooh, that's scary.
Well, it's always been that way. I mean, you know, General Electric used to own NBC.
I guess, you know, I'm fairly new, in this industry, so I'm trying to learn as much as I can.
Well, it's not some evil conspiracy. It's his business. And, and you know, but there's times when you need to draw the line on what business can do and what business can't do, and that's why we need to have, you know, effective forms of regulation in the FCC and in Congress.
Right. So
I strayed away from New York.
Oh, because it was too.
No, just now on the topic.
Well, I wanted to get back to your Rutgers and how, you know, your New York experience.
Well, I mean, it was great to be young in New York and, to be studying art and getting involved in media activism and political activism. It was a great place to be.
So I guess you kind of went towards media and not necessarily political, or both. You were doing both at the same time.
Well, I think all media becomes, political to some extent.
I don't know what that really means, because to me, political is not always truth, not always honesty.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, I think there's meaning in everything that we do, and meaning is always something that can be contested, depending on where you're coming from, or interpreted.
Yeah.
But no, I felt like most of what we were doing was education, and in fact, most of the Paper Tiger programs, their biggest audiences were in college courses around the country.
Oh, okay.
So that was really our biggest audience.
So college age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we produced for public access
Yeah.
in New York, and as I was talking, we'd run into the studio and spend 15 minutes setting up, shoot for half an hour, 15 minutes, take everything apart, and then take the tape to the
Oh yeah, because you had
access studio.
time.
Yeah, it was $200 an hour for the studio.
Oh wow, way back when.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a lot for back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, in the beginning, 2 of the cameras were black and white, 1 was color.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
so.
Progression here,
But that trajectory in media was part of, a lot of other creative media that was going on. There, prior to Paper Tiger, there were groups like Ant Farm and, doing guerrilla media, Rain Dance Corporation. Namjoon Pak. There was a lot of artists and just a lot of different people doing different things with media, and that really became the impetus to a large degree for public access. It was when FCC Commissioner Reed Hunt went to the Rain Dance studio in New York. I believe it was Rain Dance. And they showed him, they were artists, and they showed him, they were just playing around with cameras and the television, and they showed him video feedback, which is when you point the TV at, the camera at the TV and you get this video noise. Yeah. And of course it's intriguing. But he saw what artists were able to do, and he thought that it's important that we have capacity in our media system for those avenues of expression. And soon after, the FCC created some of the guidelines for public access television, as we know it today. So, PEG media, which we call it now, it's public education governmental, was really intended to be something that could encompass all forms of media that are non-commercial, but that have a valuable contribution to our society and to our, local communities.
So was that basically what you're talking about, was kind of the starting ground for community TV?
In the 70s, yeah.
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 Okay.
I mean, there were precedents in film. There was a project in Canada in the 70s, Challenge for Change, which was really instrumental.
Sounds good, yeah.
Oh, it was an extraordinary project. George Stoney, who we worked with quite a bit over the years at Paper Tiger TV, and he was on our board at
And it was from Canada,
Manhattan Neighborhood
you
Network.
said?
Yeah, it was a Canadian project. It was funded by the Canadian Film Board.
Oh.
And they went into various communities and indigenous communities in particular throughout Canada and taught people how to use cameras to produce media about their communities.
Nice.
And the work that came out of that was just extraordinary.
I bet. Yeah, educational.
Yeah.
Just so other people can see how other people live,
Oh, it's great. And, and there's projects, there's models like that around the world.
Yeah.
I was on the board of an international organization for a while that was Community Media International. There's a group called Eisenmenger, and we had members in India and South Africa and all over the world, Brazil. And,
well, that in itself is interesting, and it's exciting because you're dealing with the different, cultures. And
it is, but what's interesting when you go to rural communities and you introduce a technology like that, inherently, the first thing they want to do is talk about their community.
Yeah.
They want to make a video, or a film that can be shared with the next community.
Right.
This is how we grow corn here. How do you do it?
Right.
And a lot of these films are used that way, where they would tour with them, and one community would watch the other community's film and then shoot responses to it, and it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
you know, kind of
That
a
would be
chain
fun.
letter.
That would I would love to be able to see the progressiveness of that. You know.
No, it's a really beautiful thing, and that's, to me, that's the process of community media.
Right.
You know, in its purest form. You know, when it's really engaging community at all levels, and creating dialogues and discourses that ordinarily wouldn't exist.
Yeah, like we're doing.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it too, you know, because you never know what'll come out of the conversation.
Exactly.
You know, it's like I'm enjoying hearing about this because I wouldn't have known otherwise. You know, so.
Yeah, well, there's great models. There's a lot of people came before us doing really interesting projects.
Yeah, well, I just give you a lot of honor and, you know, for what you've done for Marin TV. You know.
Well, thanks. We have a great board, great staff, so I'm just like one player in the
I
big
know,
picture.
but you're the leader from Marin TV, and I know you've worked really hard to get the cities, you know, especially San Rafael and MTA to come through with the funding, and it's worked. It's been, I know it's been hard, you know, hard work.
And we've had some challenges, and you know, that's, you know, I mean, a lot of things took longer than we anticipated.
Isn't that life?
You know, at this point, there's a happy ending. We have a future.
Yes.
And
what does that mean, have a future?
Well, we have a definite amount of time. You know, we know that we're not going to close next year. We didn't know that last year. So now we know that we can get through this period. We still need a lot of support from the communities that we work in and the organizations.
So please
we
become a
serve.
member.
Become a member, make a donation.
Yes, yes.
If you think the idea of community media, you know, community access, government access, and education access is important, you know, support your local. Homegrown media.
Yes, right here, Marin TV.
We don't interrupt programming to do pledge drives. The way some do.
Do they do that on other access TV?
No, only PBS.
Oh yeah,
does
okay,
that.
that's what I thought. Yeah, I didn't think that you could really do that.
Technically we could, but we wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, the scheduling that's done for the Channel 26, the community channel. You know, that belongs to the people who are making the programs.
Oh, okay.
You know, we're not going
so it's good for me to say, please become a member, and so we can continue these programs.
Yeah, become a member, take a course, learn how to make your own media.
Yes.
If you're already a media maker, just bring a tape. You can have it played on the channel.
And the instructors are wonderful here. I've experienced that from 2 years ago. Definitely.
No, we've been very lucky. We have some really wonderful people who have come to share their knowledge and skills.
So, getting back to your career and your experience, when you left New York, how did you become the director here?
Oh, well, I left New York to take this job.
Oh, you did? Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'd been on, and this was 6 years ago. Yeah, I was actually, at the time I was working, was working with Laura Flanders. We just started her program, Grit TV, which was a national news program, a news and commentary program, ran 4 days a week. And I was the director, engineer, kind of everything, and we just put the studio together. And I had just enough time to do the first 2 weeks of programs, and then had to get in the car and come out here.
Really?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, it was just bad timing, but I left her in good hands. I had brought in a really good crew, and
so you
they were
basically
well-trained.
took this job before you decided. I mean.
No, I was doing that job, and I just hadn't heard about this job.
Oh,
so
and then you.
the two
Oh,
is
okay.
just kind of,
okay. So, had you been to California before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it was just time for my wife and I to get out of New York.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful city, but it's a city.
It's not like
it's
California.
a city to be young in.
To be young.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's so much action and
Yeah.
hustle bustle
Yeah.
and.
Yeah.
Wow, I may have to go. I've never been there. I can't believe it.
Oh.
I've lived in Istanbul, Seattle, San Francisco,
Really?
and London, but I've never been to New York.
No, it's a great city.
So hopefully I'll have my opportunity soon. But
Yeah, so this, sorry. Yeah, this has been a really good change for us, though. I think we just needed things to kind of quiet down, and New York has an edge to it, and it's just a grind that will wear you down before your time, and I think we needed a change of pace.
Is that the pressure to be successful, or what?
No, it's getting on the subway in the morning and getting to Midtown,
just the hustle bustle of
because everything is kind of a push.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great city for that. I love that kind of energy that you get from the city, but it takes its toll and it's exhausting. But this was a great opportunity. I like building spaces where social interactions can happen.
Yeah. Creating.
Yeah. So this is a really good challenge. To come into Marin, find what we had to work with. We had a pretty limited amount of funding starting out, and
How did you get the funding to start it to begin with?
Well, that was originally through the local video franchise agreement with Comcast.
Oh, okay.
They had negotiated for some upfront money to start everything, and that covered the cost of getting the space and renovating and the equipment. It just wasn't enough to go forward.
Oh, okay. So that's when you needed to get the members contributing and donations, and then how did it? Now were the cities involved in it at that point? For their contributions for the PEG fees. When Comcast, or was that?
It's complicated.
Oh, okay. I'm asking a very loaded answer.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be elusive, but it's cable franchising is complicated. The original agreement between the cities and Comcast was a local agreement, and it was for a set amount of money over a 10-year period. But there was no way that funding would go,
beyond the 10 years.
There was no way that funding could, keep the organization alive for 10 years.
Yeah.
And there had been no negotiation for PEG fees. PEG fees are what keep every center like this alive around the country. But a piece of state legislation had passed, and it was possible for the cities to transfer to that state franchise and get 1% of PEG fees, which didn't exist in the local franchise. And that generates enough annual income to keep the center functioning.
Oh, okay.
So that was a very, smart thing to do. There was a little bit of a rub. Comcast is holding back half of that 1%, for X amount of time, and that's why we needed some city support in the interim.
Right.
What's been called bridge funding, just to get through that period intact. And at the same time, we're doing a lot of services for the cities. We're installing equipment in the council chambers for those cities at one end, and then we provide the production services. So we should have as many as 7 city council meeting and planning commission meetings on the channel, this summer.
Now, do they actually get that in exchange for the PEG fees, or do they actually pay the center for?
The equipment is free, so we're purchasing and installing the equipment for free, and then we've reduced our hourly rate to do the production services during this agreement.
Every time you do a production for them, like monthly when they have their meetings, then you charge them your fee. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have to pay people too.
Yeah, of course. Oh my goodness. It's like a business. It is a business.
Yeah, and then we have to keep the master control and keep the channels on, and that's no small task.
I'm sure.
That equipment's expensive.
Well, we've experienced with the Skype issue where we were trying to do a Skype, and I guess there was a card that went off, and you fixed it. Boy, I'm so happy, because then the next week I did another Skype. So
yeah, that's there's a lot of little things like that.
Challenges.
But when you're dealing with software like that, it's difficult.
Yeah.
But most of what the staff are doing here at the center is really working on our governmental and educational activities. I know that the members who come in, they see our trainers, who are part-time, and our station assistants who are great.
Everybody here's
Yeah, but
really wonderful.
but the bulk of our staff are, we're going out to the schools, we're training youth to, to do productions.
Good
you
old
know,
Scott.
Yeah, Scott's been heading a lot of that up. So we're, this summer we've been doing the Pacific baseball games live.
Yeah.
The kids are doing 10 games, and it's mostly high school students this year from across the county. The youngest is 14.
Great.
I understand there's one college student from Dominican, and they're doing 10 live games. And if you were to go down there and watch them work, you won't see adults operating the equipment
No,
and
it's
the kids
all the kids.
watching.
Great.
It's all hands-on training, and that's really what we believe in. We believe youth should produce their own media.
Yeah.
They don't need adults to moderate and do it for them. So
Was it last
so it's
year?
a great opportunity.
Was it last year kind of the pilot situation for that? Because I remember when Scott was teaching the kids, and then I've seen him on the website too.
Yeah.
And I went down there because I had Mike on the show here.
Yeah. We did about, I think he did 5 games last year. So we
Okay.
doubled the number of games this year.
Oh, okay.
And they're doing beautifully. I mean, it's really impressive.
That's neat. That's good.
So we're trying to get that into a regular project where we have equipment packages, working with the ROP Center next door. It used to be the Marin Youth Center, and working in the media programs in the various schools. So
yeah.
kids are building, they become production teams, and they can go out and
Yeah,
cover
I mean,
events.
that's such a wonderful, lucrative, creative, I say lucrative, for expressing their
it's
creative
enormous
venue.
experience. Yeah,
Oh.
everything can come into play in media creation.
Yeah.
That was a great thing when I was at Paper Tiger, because no matter who you were, you could participate. If you were an artist, there were a multitude of ways that you could work on it. If you were a writer,
Express
you could
your
write.
creativity.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. Researchers, there's
yeah.
just a lot of. So it's great for youth. I feel like we have some good models, so hopefully we'll start seeing that.
I'll leave you with this. Never give up. Wherever you are and what you're doing in your life, work with integrity and have a positive attitude. First and foremost, with your family and friends. First, be aware of and conscious of your thoughts, and catch yourself before they come out of your mouth when they're negative. Be grateful for whose you are and where you have come from and what you have, and be grateful for your freedom and eat healthy. Good nutrition feeds the mind and the body temple. Don't forget to exercise. Feed your spirituality with meditation and prayer. Thank God for unconditional love. Love yourself unconditionally. Stop criticizing, stop judging, and allowing others to dominate the way you feel and think about yourself. Be compassionate and share your abundance and wealth with others. When fear knocks, let faith answer the door. You are what you are and where you are because of what goes into your mind. You can change what you are and where you are by changing what goes into your mind. Zig Ziglar.